Okay, awesome. Okay, so first of all, they're calling this nature's Ozempic. Does it have the same properties as nature's Ozempic, or how does this work?
Berberine is a naturally occurring compound that's derived from plants, and the social media has been calling it nature's Ozempic. And the reason for that is many of the physiologic effects that we see with Ozempic, such as better blood sugar and some weight loss. You can see some of these with berberine as well, but it's important to note that it works on a completely different mechanism of action. So it works to regulate our metabolism, which is a little different than how semaglutide or Ozempic works, which is on a satiety signal, a hormone that kind of helps us with satiety and with how quickly our stomach is emptying.
Does it help fasten? Like, does it help make your metabolism faster, or
The studies on berberine have been mixed because it's considered a food and a supplement, not necessarily medication. So a lot of them are observational. But what the data tells us, if we put them all together, is that you can get some modest weight loss with it. So about a half a point off your BMI, or about 5% of your body weight, which is substantially less than what we would see with semaglutide, which is Ozempic, or tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro, where we see 15-20% weight loss. You can also get some improvements in your glycemic control, so your hemoglobin A1C or your insulin sensitivity can change. Some studies, but others have not shown effects on cholesterol. But overall, the data, even on those endpoints of sugar control and weight loss, is very mixed, because you can imagine the dose, the frequency, the duration of exposure, all of these are factors that you can't really control for when you're just sort of observing whether people are taking berberine and whether or not they're having weight loss. And furthermore, if you're trying to take a medicine for weight loss, you might be doing something else that might also be leading to weight loss, and so it's called confounding. These are other variables that you can't control for in these particular observational trials.
um, some people too were saying it lowers cholesterol. It helps with polycystic ovary syndrome. Is that have we seen any of that?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome, high cholesterol, dyslipidemia, these are all sort of, along the same spectrum, because there are a lot of overlapping risk factors, and there are a lot of kind of common pathways, common consequences that come from these. So any of the medicines that help you lose weight will help improve polycystic ovarian syndrome. Naturally, losing weight helps with many of the kind of side effects and problems and consequences from PCOS. Similarly, when it comes to, insulin resistance or diabetes, same thing with obesity, same thing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. It's all along the same pathway. And I like to say having extra weight on us is the first domino. So that domino causes all the other dominoes to fall. So if you can target that upfront domino, maybe you're going to get benefit on all of those downstream factors. But having said that, I don't think as a physician, as a cardiologist, as someone who treats people all the time for these type of metabolic disorders, there's nearly enough data for us to know that berberine works and that berberine is safe. So there's a huge amount of lacking data on the safety of this type of supplement. Again, because of the lack of scientific evidence, because it's a supplement, it's not regulated by the FDA in the same way. It's more considered a food.
So would you like, and there are some side effects that have been shown with this, like diarrhea and all that. What would you say about those?
Yeah, so you have to be cautious, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch, and berberine is definitely not a free lunch. So certainly you can have side effects like stomach upset, gas, diarrhea, constipation, flatulence. These are common side effects that can happen. You can also have drug-drug interactions. So for somebody who actually takes a diabetic medicine or a blood pressure medicine or others, this berberine compound can interact with those medicines and cause problems. So certainly not something to start without consulting with your doctor. And then we've also seen more severe sort of problems happen in animal models: liver failure, damage to organs, low white cell counts. These are the infection fighting cells. So more sort of significant side effects can also occur. So this should be considered a drug. I don't want people to just think of it like a supplement just because it's marketed as a supplement, because it has many of the physiologic sort of effects on the body, good and bad, that drugs can have. And so we have to be really careful when we think about using it.
What would you suggest to people who are curious about it and want to use it? What would you say to them?
I would say berberine, no doubt, may have some physiologic effects. So it may help you lose a tiny bit of weight. We don't know what happens if you stop it, but it could help with that. It may help get your blood sugar down or improve your insulin sensitivity. It may help with some of these other cardiometabolic things we talked about, such as cholesterol and blood pressure. But before you embark on any kind of supplement, and berberine especially included in that, it's a really good idea to have a good conversation with your doctor. Talk about your goals, because it's possible that there may be a safer alternative to berberine to get you to accomplish those goals. And depending on what you're trying to do, your doctor may want to write a prescription or may want to get you in touch with a nutritionist. There's just not enough scientific evidence for me as a preventive cardiologist to recommend this to my patients. And I certainly don't know that it works, and I certainly don't know that it's safe, which is why I tend to stay away from it.